If you are watching this right now, it is not an accident. Something in your life has gone quiet lately, and I think you already know what it is. Maybe it's a friendship that used to feel easy and now feels like work. Maybe it's a room that used to be full of noise and is now just still. Maybe you've started noticing how much of your day you spend alone with your own thoughts. And some part of you is asking, is something wrong with me? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to understand something that changes the way you see every quiet moment in your life from now on, and the part that surprises people most is coming near the end. Here is what I want you to sit with for a second. Millions of people around the world are going through the exact same thing you are right now. The friendships that faded, the family members who don't call the way they used to, the evenings that stretch out longer than they used to. And here is the stakes. If you misunderstand what this silence means, you will spend years running from it, filling it with noise, apologizing for it, treating it like proof that something is broken in you. And that mistake costs people something enormous, the one relationship that actually determines the quality of every other relationship they'll ever have, the relationship with themselves. So let's talk about what's actually happening. There's an idea from depth psychology, the study of what happens beneath the surface of the mind, that explains this perfectly. It's the idea that every person carries two selves. There's the self you show the world, the version of you that smiles at the right times, agrees when it's easier to agree, keeps the peace, plays the role. And then there's the self underneath, quieter, more honest, less interested in performing. Most of us spend our 20s, 30s, even our 40s building the first self so well that we forget the second one exists. And then, for reasons that often feel like nothing at all, a birthday, a loss, a long winter, the quiet self starts knocking. It shows up as restlessness, as a friendship that suddenly feels hollow, as a hobby you used to love that now feels pointless. It shows up as silence, because silence is the one place the performing self can't follow you. Stay with me here, because what I'm about to tell you completely changes how you see everything you just heard. That silence you've been feeling, it is not a malfunction. It is not loneliness in the way you've been taught to fear loneliness. It is your mind quietly retiring a version of you that has finished its job. Let me say that differently, because it deserves to land. For most of your life, the performing self was necessary. It got you through job interviews, family gatherings, decades of showing up for people who needed you to be steady, agreeable, dependable. That self did real work. It kept you safe. But nobody can perform forever, and somewhere in the second half of life, the mind starts asking a different question. Not how do I fit in, but who am I actually, underneath all of that fitting in? This is what depth psychologists call individuation, becoming who you actually are, rather than who you learn to appear to be. And here's the reframe, the part I promised you at the start. The disconnection you've been feeling from people, from routines, from a version of your life that used to make sense that isn't decline. That is your psyche making room. It is shedding what no longer belongs, the same way a tree drops leaves it no longer needs before something new can grow. The quiet isn't emptiness, it's construction. Think about the people in your life you've quietly drifted from, not out of conflict, just distance. For a long time you might have felt guilty about that, like you did something wrong. But consider this instead. Maybe those relationships were built around the performing self, and now that you're becoming someone more honest, some of them simply don't fit the same way. That's not failure. That's growth, choosing its own shape. Now here's what I want you to actually do with this, starting today, not someday. Today, first. Take 5 minutes tonight and write down the answer to one question. Where in my life am I still performing a role instead of being myself? Don't overthink it. Just one relationship, one situation. Write it honestly, even if it's uncomfortable. Second, the next time someone asks something of you and your first instinct is to say yes out of habit, try this phrase instead: let me think about that and get back to you. That single sentence gives your quieter, truer self a voice in decisions that used to belong entirely to the performing self. Third, pick 1 hour this week, just one, and spend it completely alone, without a phone, a television, or a task to complete. Not to fix anything, just to notice what surfaces when there's nothing left to perform for. That noticing is where the real relationship with yourself begins. I want to ask you something before we go. Has there been a relationship or a role in your life you've quietly outgrown, one you're still carrying out of habit rather than truth? I'd genuinely like to know. Tell me about it in the comments below. Someone reading your story might realize they're not alone in it either. So if you are watching this right now, it is still not an accident. The silence you've been noticing isn't something wrong with you. It's the sound of someone becoming more honest than they've ever been allowed to be. You are not falling apart. You are finally arriving. New videos drop every day on Carl Jung's Psychology Hub. Hit subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss one.